That's for you. That's where I draw the line.
I'm calling to order the meeting for the Midcoast Community Council for December 11th, 2013. Will the council members introduce themselves?
Bob Klein.
Bill Kehoe.
Lynn Erickson.
Lisa Ketchum.
Laura Stein. I'm opening public comment, so anyone who would like to speak up to 3 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda. The council may not discuss or take action on items that are not on the agenda. And Chris, I thought I saw your hand up.
Just wait.
Oh, hi. Good to see you.
He's excited.
Neil, I know you had your hand up.
Hi, I'm Neil Merrilees from Moss Beach, and I just wanted to thank everybody for all the good outcome at Moss Beach Park. You were a big part of that, and you know, it seems like the Midcoast Council is really metamorphosizing into a place where people feel comfortable coming and airing issues and actually getting things positively solved. So thank you very much for all your great work. And I also want to say that I know what it's like to be on the Midcoast Council, and I know it's going to be a relief not to have to come to meetings anymore, but I wanted to say thank you for serving and for making it through your entire terms and for doing a great job and really just turning it into a great organization. And so I want to say thank you to everybody that's leaving. And I thought Lisa deserves way more for staying. I mean, this could be a new tradition. Give the new members something to look forward to.
Oh, what a nice surprise.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
This should make the meeting go a lot smoother. Just talking right now.
I cannot take action on this item.
Listen, you wanted hamburgers, he's bringing wine.
I know. You know, we should have connected earlier.
You can only speak if you can top that.
Yeah. And what did you bring? Go ahead, Leonard.
Camera. But I expected Don to be here to do the oath of office. Lisa probably knows this better than I do, but I think this is the first time in 6 years, maybe 8 years, certainly 4 and probably 6 or 8, that there will have been 7 seated members on the council.
Not true.
You sure?
Until David Friendly resigned, we had 7.
All right, well, that was such a fleeting flash that we've all put it out of our
You know,
mind.
he hates to be corrected.
Yeah.
And it's on camera.
Excuse me, no comment? We cannot comment?
So, you know, it's really encouraging to see 4 fresh faces. Although traditionally, council members have come up through the council committees. However, council committees have been fairly dead for a while now. So, you know, lacking that, at least somehow we've gotten 4 new members. And I think this is great, and I think this is going to be a good time for the council. On a totally different subject, I was chastised for my comments regarding the letter that was approved at the last council meeting. I guess it was the last council meeting, regarding something having to do with parks, if I recall. And I was told that that was the wrong time and place to make an issue out of the font size. But I've been ragging on this for years and getting nowhere, and I think that got the attention it needed. And the council really needs to pay a lot more attention to using reasonable font sizes on everything. And I'm actually going to be contacting federal legislators and try and get a very, very minor adjustment made to the ADA, and that's going to force you to do it right. So, you know, I'm really sorry about the approach that I took. It was pointed out that that was Len's last council meeting, but and And so, I'll somewhat apologize for that, but I've been making an issue out of this for so long and so many times and gotten nowhere that I just lost it. And, I apologize for that, but somehow the point has to be gotten across that you need to be reasonable on the font sizes. And if you want to see what's totally ridiculous, look at Larimer's letter to LAFCO from last month. It's in 6-point font. It's completely unreadable.
Thank you, Leonard. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
My name is Katrina Rill. I'm from Congresswoman Jackie Spear's office.
Okay, Katrina, I'm totally embarrassed. I walked up the stairs with you, 3 flights, and I didn't realize it was you. So, welcome.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of Congresswoman Spear, I would like to thank the 3 retiring members for their service to the council. And I brought it in 16-point type. But I don't have champagne. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, it's cold.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there any other comment? Do council members have any announcements?
Can I make a comment about my turn? Is this where we can do
No,
it?
there's a place.
Okay, that's what I thought.
She's already
Yeah.
taken over here.
I mean, because I'm trying to follow the order, so let me know when. I do want to make a comment.
You're being very patient.
No, I know, I saw it there, but we
I'll
skipped
keep
over
you
one
posted.
part, so I'm just,
Oh, we haven't heard Nicholas yet.
no, I know.
Right, so, but first, does anybody have any announcements? No, okay, I have one. Coastside Design Review Committee is looking for a community member alternate for Montera. So if you know of anybody, if you would please spread the word for that open position. We also have an alternate architect position open, which will be the 3rd architect position that will be shared between the Bayside and the Coastside. So please keep us posted. And with that, is Don not coming this evening?
Supervisor Horsley, this entire week is rushing from event to event. Just like the Midcoast Community Council, all the cities in the county are doing their reorgs this week and last week. So we have him on a pretty hectic schedule. He should be coming. With that said, I don't know where he is, and well, let me put it this way: his intentions were to try and make it. And so I will leave the parts that are for him for now.
But you know what?
When he shows up.
I neglected one piece here, so do you want to hold on just a minute?
I would love to. I'd love to gather my thoughts, so why don't you go first and then...
You're so
and then I'll put my
cooperative.
tongue back around.
Okay. Public comment is now closed, and I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Nicholas, are your thoughts collected?
They are. We're good to go. So Supervisor Horsley has intended to be here tonight, and so I'll leave these for him. And if he doesn't make it soon, then I can go ahead and pick that up. He has asked me, regardless, though, to go ahead and provide a report out, so we can keep the meeting going. So I'll allow him to say congratulations to the new members, but congratulations to the new members. And I've had a great time working with the 3 of you, but that's later on in the agenda. So a couple of updates here. Yesterday, the Board of Supervisors met, and the Board of Supervisors unanimously accepted the deed to Moss Beach Park. So Moss Beach Park, as of tomorrow, will be officially owned by the county and will be incorporated into the County Parks Department. That was a long road. It got a little crazy at some points, but we're very happy with the outcome. And it truly was an effort. Between the community, the MCC, the CP&R board, which Neil sits on, and the county. So this was really a great experience. I know there are a lot of people who probably would have been a lot happier without having to dealt with this and had it go down the way it did, but at the end of the day, everything worked out very well. And I know Supervisor Horsley was happy to work with everyone on that, and we're excited about what's going to happen with the park in the future. I know Supervisor Horsley is gonna be reaching out to the community soon regarding this matter, but there's some great things that are going on. There's the bathroom, there's some maintenance projects that we're gonna do, but we're very excited about this, and we hope the community is as well. And, you know, there was talk about forming a Friends of Moss Beach group, so that's something that, you know, I think we will collectively work on together in the future to make sure that happens, because there are a lot of good potentials around that.
Installation date for the restroom?
2014. Early 2014 is what we're saying. I can't give you an exact date. There was some work that needed to be done before that, but we have the bathroom in storage, and we do know that early 2014. I had that conversation with the Parks Department. So, at the same meeting yesterday, the board approved $600,000 to conduct the transportation management plan. So part of the Midcoast update to the LCP was that one of the conditions was that prior to any amendments to the LCP being made that would increase either residential development or land use intensification, any changes that were made before that, a transportation management plan had to be conducted. And so the board approved, Supervisor Horsley and Supervisor Carol Groom requested that the board approve $600,000 to do that. So we'll be picking that up here shortly. We're looking to move forward on that as quickly as possible, because the Princeton plan, which everyone's familiar with, is an amendment to the LCP and wouldn't be accepted until this transportation management plan is done. So we're going to be doing these in parallel. We're going to be working hard on both, and trying to get these to the Board of Supervisors roughly around the same time. The community will hear more. There'll be a public engagement plan included in the transportation management plan that you guys will hear about, and you know, we'll absolutely make sure that the consultant, whoever the consultant is, comes out and engages with not just the community, obviously, but the MCC. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. And you know, right now we just got the funding, so now we're really just getting it out of the blocks. Earlier today, I attended a workshop with the Transportation Authority, and the workshop was for Measure A bike and pedestrian program funds. The program is what we will be applying for to fund the planning and permitting of the parallel trail, the first segment of the parallel trail, which will go from the city-county line at Murata Road to, and that'll go north in the Highway 1 Eastern right-of-way to Coronado. That's our conceptual plan right now. This will be a commuter trail. It'll serve both bike and pedestrians. It'll be used by everyone, and we're really excited about that. I know that there is a letter later on in the agenda about that. Excuse me. And so we're excited that the MCC is engaging with us on that. We've had a lot of conversations with other community groups. I'll be going to the Cabrillo Unified School District Board tomorrow night to discuss this matter. I've spoken with the El Granada PTO on this matter. So we're really looking to make sure that every stakeholder group is represented, including children, including the schools. So we're excited about that, and we're looking forward to this application, and we think we have a pretty competitive application here. So, lastly, Surfers Beach, we're progressing on that. There is 4B is an item on this, and but what we're doing is we're making progress with that. We are looking to have a conference call with Caltrans coming up here. The county had a wetland delineation done of the project area, so we have now identified where there are wetlands in the project area, and so that was really the first step, because now we know kind of what we're going to be dealing with. We're confident that we have a conceptual scope that will meet everyone's needs. Obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done still. We're very early in the phase. We're very early in the project, and but look forward to working with everyone on this. You know, the goals of this project are to save Highway 1, to make sure that that doesn't collapse, to provide, and then secondly, to enhance recreation on the coast side. So it'll have a new segment of the coastal trail, and it'll have stairs down to Surfers Beach. So I know right now getting down to Surfers Beach is kind of like an obstacle course, so this would change that. So we're very excited about this and looking forward to getting this done, because I think this is really a high need for the community. There's a high need for the community. We've talked to a lot of people who really want this. So we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to having someone from here working with us on this, from the community working with us on this, and definitely we'll keep you guys posted going forward. So, and Supervisor Horsley just walked in. He should be in the room here in a couple seconds. So, but I will re-announce him when he walks in, and that is my report.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to tell some jokes now, because.
So, let me try to, let's see, what else can I talk to you guys about? I'll tell you what, do we want to, we'll buy ourselves a couple seconds here. So earlier I talked about I really can't do this. Earlier we talked about the transportation management plan. Some people may not be aware of what that is. Quickly to go over that. So it'll serve a couple purposes. One, it'll determine how to minimize and mitigate current and future traffic along Highway 1, Highway 92, and other arterial roads in the county, in the Midcoast, and in Half Moon Bay. So one of the agreements was that the Coastal Commission wanted us to look at not just the Midcoast, but also Half Moon Bay. And really that makes sense. I mean, 92 is one of your main routes, is one of two main routes in here. And so we really do need to look at how do we mitigate that. It'll also address cumulative impacts, traffic impacts from residential development. And then we'll have to look at different programs and policies. How do we implement different programs, different policies? How do we work with Samtrans? How do we work with other service providers to get some cars off the road, or to mitigate how many cars will be on the road in the future? So, but with that said, Supervisor Horsley is now here, and so he'll be sitting right here, and I am done. Now I'm officially done with my report.
Welcome.
Excellent report.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think this would be a good time, before we move on to the reorganization and installation of new members, if anybody wanted to make any comments about, I know, Neil, you did it during public comment, but if anybody wanted to make any comments about the outgoing members, this would probably be a good time. And does anybody want to come up to speak? All right.
As an incoming member, I want to thank all of you for the example you've set and all the great work you've done over the last 4 years. It's been good working with some of you individually on the coastal trail issues and everything else. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yes, I do. You really did set a great example. In fact, I started looking at the Corbell's champagne. But, I've talked to other ones of our municipal advisory councils and asked them to come and watch how your council operates, and because I think you really are a great role model. I think you've been very effective, and I've really enjoyed working with all of you, and I want to thank each one of you individually and collectively as well, that you all had, I think, great input. You obviously care very much about the community. I don't think you don't have personal agendas. You cared mostly about the whole community, and I think represented them extremely well. And I've worked, of course, with Len extensively on trails. Haven't always agreed with everything, but nevertheless, I think your input was really valuable. Bill and I have been involved with Lisa as well on Devil Slide. I think we made that as a much better project. In fact, actually, Len and Bill both there when they were not going to put the wall that separates the pedestrians. They were going to leave it open, and you both pointed out that, hey, wait a second. There's no retreat area for a pedestrian in the event that if a car loses control. And so it made it into a much better project. You also supported those on-demand traffic lights that I wanted for 7 years and we eventually got. Now, I think they will be great for public safety. I think when we get the Green Valley Trail, I think they'll prove invaluable. I think there's going to be, we estimate there'll be about 80,000 people a year visiting that. And, you know, if you're able to walk that, once you walk it, you get a dramatically different feel than driving it. It is just dramatically different. And you see those birds just gliding in. You take a look at the rock formations. It's really, it is going to be a fabulous addition to the county's park system. So, Bob, I got less opportunity to work with you, but, you know, you're always a real solid guy, and we can always count on you. So I just want to tell you, each one of you, I really appreciate, and we have just a very small thing, as a small commendation, thanking each one of you. Here, Bob, you, this one is for, this is for Bill. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bob. Thanks for your service. Bill, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And one for Len. You know, and I know that you all are going to continue being involved. So, Len, what's your thanks? Thanks for your service. Just give her a look.
Is there any other topic you'd like to address before I move on?
No. So we have to swear in a new.
Yeah, you can do that.
Right?
We're getting there.
Oh, okay. And we also have each one of those.
Well, I guess we are ready for the swearing in, are we not? Our agenda item is council reorganization and installation of new members. So I guess the plan will be for them to be sworn in, and then we will elect officers. Oh, I may have a request for something else. Do you
That
want
was
to
on the
comment?
agenda, I think, each of us, but once you start, Bob, typically you have a chance to comment to the public.
Oh, I'm going a little too quick.
Why don't you start? Okay. As the oldest council member here, having actually been elected 4 years ago, it's been my pleasure to be on the council. I really prefer in most things to let what I've tried to do speak for itself. So I've enjoyed the opportunity to be a vice chair, a chair, and a treasurer. I'm happy to report that the treasury is left much richer as I'm leaving, but probably that's the smallest effort. And probably what most important and a tangible thing you can look at is to be involved in a continuing transition of the website, one that was actively supported by Leonard Warren when I came on the council, which I supported for several years, and then taken over by Lisa. And I think anyone who looks at the website today really agrees it's a major asset for the council and the whole community. So I think that's, you know, being involved in that has been really good. And I sort of a nod to Neil, who's the one who said, you know, we ought to really have a certain kind of website. And he said, why not give it a try? Which really shows what you can do by effort. You know, even in making the step forward to here, we reached out to Pescadero, which we thought might have some interesting ideas, and incorporated those. So, you know, it's been a great effort. Beyond that, you know, I really, look forward to continuing to support the community, and I'm really excited to see the new members coming on. I think that, you know, all of them, as I've heard both of them speak publicly and in some private conversations, are real assets. But as Don said, and I also, you know, commend Don because really, the number of visits he's paid to the council has sort of gone hand in hand with our, you know, being an effective agent of the community. And, you know, it wouldn't happen if he weren't actually here. We really like to have Nicholas here at all the meetings, and he does a good job, but having you here on several occasions really is a big plus as well, and look forward to you continuing that. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank my fellow council members for the past 3.5 years I was appointed, I wasn't elected, for all the time and commitment you have given to the public process here and in support of the unincorporated community of the Midcoast. You know, we've had many challenging tasks before us, like the finalization of the LCP update and the Highway 1 safety and mobility study, and the county takeover of the Moss Beach Park, which literally just happened. There's still many ongoing issues. We still have the Plan Princeton ahead of us. We still have the airport land use compatibility plan coming up. We still have the ocean views in Montera and all along the coast, along with the erosion at Surfers Beach that needs to be followed and closely by the incoming members. To the new members of this council, I want to thank you for volunteering your time and your energy over the next 4 years, for stepping up and, coming on board to take over the council and carry on its traditions. I really appreciate it. I know how much time it takes, I know how much effort. There are going to be times when you're going to feel overwhelmed. There'll be times when you'll be here and there'll only be one member out there, but it's all worth it when a community member comes up and thanks you for some effort you've done on their behalf. You'll feel really great about that, so I appreciate you doing that. But my main point tonight for actually wanting to make a comment is I want to give you a little background on the MCC. It was formed over 20 years ago, and it came out of community members like yourself who had a hard time getting the County Board of Supervisors to listen to the local perspective on the LCP and how it should be interpreted. And that sort of culminated with the thing known as the Harbor Village Mall, which is over here in Princeton, which completely changed both the views of the harbor and also changed the characteristics of Princeton. And so a lot of people in the community felt they didn't want that to happen. They didn't think it would be a very successful endeavor. Time will still be in judgment on that one. But they spent a lot of time. They had to individually get in their cars, go over the hill to Redwood City to make their views known, and were given 2 minutes to do their speaking, and that was it. And that's what really got the community to support and push to have a Midcoast Community Council, which they voted for in 1991, and it won an overwhelming majority. I think it was around 80%. So as you go forward on the council, I want to remind you that you're here for the community. It's really important that you connect with the community, that you listen to the community, listen to what they have to say, and look into it and carry forth what they're asking you to do. And as part of that, I pointed out to some of the new members, I didn't get the chance to speak to all the new members, but I really want to ask you to look at the bylaws, because sprinkled throughout the bylaws are lots of references about how to run the meetings and how to make it community friendly. There's even statements in there that the community is to be treated on an equal footing to all council members, which to me has always meant that in any kind of discussion, the community should be leading the discussion, and the community should be able to speak until everyone is heard, and even be allowed to speak more than once if the topic begins to shift during that discussion, because it's supposed to be a discussion process. The bylaws actually state you're not to follow Robert's Rules of Order, because that inhibits the discussion. So I've been on the soapbox for 3.5 years about this. I think even Supervisor Horsey can attest to the fact that while I was chair, I would keep going around and letting them talk, sometimes a little bit too much. From other council members thought I should speed it up. But this isn't the process about efficiency. This is a process about the community being heard. And so that's what I hope you'll take to heart. That's what I hope you'll continue to do. And I will be here. If you have any questions, any need to find out more about that, or if you just need to find out who knows something about this and how to get in touch, please always feel free to contact me. And again, I thank you for your service, and you as well. Thank you.
Well, my MCC journey started when Leonard Warren, the Encyclopedia Brown of everything, politics on the coast side, stood up in a meeting and said, hey, we've got a seat open and we need to fill it. And I thought, well, what the heck? I've never done anything like that. I'll give it a try. I saw that there were, people were passionate about everything. And after the first 2 meetings I thought to myself, what in the blue blazes have I gotten myself into? I knew nothing. It seemed really complicated. I didn't know what questions to ask to find out what questions to ask. So early on, I want to thank Bill and Len for their guidance early on when I knew absolutely nothing. When Lisa, Laura, and Dan were at it, I learned more, but I'm still a babe in the woods. I did recognize, however, that some improvements could be made the way we operated. A few of them were, we had a treasurer that managed no money. We met in a venue where you couldn't hear anything, and for a hearing impaired person, that created some problems. The MCC website was elementary at best, difficult to use, and very seldom visited by the public. Meetings were attended by what Captain Louis Renault referred to in Casablanca as the usual suspects. The community rarely attended. Council's reputation with the county and staff was spotty at best. So the council worked hard to change all that, and I believe we made solid progress. And I would like to thank these people for all their hard work during this time as we made this progress together. The other thing that when almost Supervisor Horsley's election added to these improvements, his support has allowed improved relations with the county and its staff, and we've become more a proactive than reactive organization because of your involvement, and our reputation has been greatly improved. Thank you, and please accept my gratitude and thanks. The greatest compliment I think we got was when he said, Pescadero folks, come on up, see what that means, guys. And then there's Nicholas. Nicholas has become a tremendous asset once he realized that we really did like him. He picks up the phone when you call, he gets back to you on questions you've asked. He works extremely hard and has enormous patience in these meetings, explaining things more than once. So, Nicholas, thanks for your hard work. For the new council members, I'd like you to remember 3 things. To get more people involved, as Bill spoke about in our meetings. Hear more than what the usual suspects have to say. The horse may be dead, so don't keep beating it. Remember the 3 C's of communication. Be clear, concise, and complete in written and spoken words. Save the hard-to-define adjectives and adverbs for prose and poetry. Long letters and speeches discourage progress. When people understand each other, things tend to get done. And number 3, remember that passion does not excuse perniciousness, prevarication, or disrespect. Remember what I was talking about vocabulary?
Yeah, you just broke it over.
You got it? So, I'm looking forward to becoming more involved in the community. I think we've got 4 people coming on board. That'll be excellent. Wishing everybody goodwill and good speed in the future, and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Well, let's hear it for our And Supervisor Worthy. All right. I think at this point then, we're ready for swearing in of the new council members.
Can I have, come up to the front, and Paul, each gonna, well,
We could just sign them out, they could
Oh,
sit in their seats here.
Yeah, if we can move.
Oh, and I have their, what shall I do in their business cards?
You could have,
What do I have to do?
okay, so where do you want me to stand? Well, go ahead, Darren, don't go back there, you gotta get one end. Come up. So what's the difference?
I'm thinking just, figure a position where the camera can see both you and you members.
So, what's the camera, what?
You should be at you should be at the podium, so at least somebody can hear you. Yeah, there you go.
And how about if you guys go right in there, kind of in the center?
There you go.
Well, kind of, would you?
Nobody wants to hear that. He doesn't bite.
You guys sort of need to face me. Joel, Aaron, face me. Yeah, come on, Joel. Is that, how's that? Can you get them all in? Okay, all right, now, the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna raise your right hand, like that. And when I'm gonna say I, and when as soon as I say "I," you're going to then say "I" and repeat your name. Not my name, your name. So, ready? Okay. I
I, Chris Walker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, you're done. You're on.
Thank you.
Okay. Dave? I think we now take a seat.
Yes, you all take a seat here. All right, we're going to now move on to nominations for positions on the council. And I'm going to open the nominations for chair. And the way that this works, if you have someone that you believe should have that position, you can call out their name. It would be best if they already knew that they're interested in this, and they'll let us know if they aren't. So right now, we're going to start with chair. Do I have any nominations for position of chair?
I will nominate Lisa Ketchum.
Any other nominations? Then, I don't know the proper verbiage. So Lisa is then going to take the position of chair by acclamation. Is that correct?
So do we all say yay, or what do we
Ask
do?
for a motion to elect Lisa chair by acclamation.
May I have a motion to accept Lisa as chair by acclamation?
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're now going to move on to vice chair. So I'm going to open the nominations for vice chair. Do I have any? Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Dave Olson.
Dave Wilson. All right. Are there any other nominations? If not, may I have a motion to place Dave in the vice chair position?
I so move.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're now going to move on to secretary.
I'll nominate Chris Johnson.
Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're now going to move on to treasurer.
Laura. Oh,
Do I have any nominations? Any other nominations? All right.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Okay. So I will be the treasurer for this coming year. And I think that Lisa can now take over.
oh boy, here we go. So, we're on our agenda item 4B, which is community representation on county-sponsored agency work group dealing with surface beach erosion protection. And the desired outcome is to appoint an MCC community representative as observer at county-sponsored surface beach agency work group meetings. Since I'm sponsoring this, I'll go on to make a report. At the October 23rd MCC meeting, we discussed county efforts to address surface beach highway and erosion protection, and we requested that Supervisor Horsley include a member of the MCC in future multi-agency meetings on this issue to help represent local public and to bring proposed solutions back to the community. At our November 13 meeting, Nicholas reported that we have been invited to appoint a community rep as an observer at these meetings. You may remember that our October letter was actually drafted by former MCC member and current County Parks Commissioner Neil Merrilees, and I just wanted him to, since he's been involved with this for some time, I'd like to ask him to report on, to flesh out whatever about this.
This is an issue that's been going on forever, and it was going on, my whole time on the Midcoast Council for 4 years, and for at least a decade before that. And that is coastal erosion at Surfers Beach, and the lack of beach access at Surfers Beach, and the lack of beach parking at Surfers Beach, and the lack of safe crossing at Surfers Beach. And everything comes together at Surfers Beach, which is something we all know, but the solutions are not very simple, and hence it's been going on a long time. So maybe 4 or 6 years ago, I started meeting with Dave Holland and a member of the Coastal Commission, and just kind of made up some quick little sketches of what to do at Surfers Beach. Not solutions, but things to talk over. Stairways, whether riprap was appropriate, sacrificial stairways, sacrificial riprap, or something permanent. When Traffic and Trails came through town, which was an amazing study that everybody here participated in, I think, we talked about moving the highway back. And in that discussion, I think it became apparent to me, as well as a lot of people, that there was going to be some pushback for moving that highway. That was not something that the community was necessarily 100% behind, because there's some nice land between Highway 1 now and El Granada, and that people like that. For future parkland, Granada Sanitary District just put a big sewer storage facility in there that we would rather not move in the next few years if the road has to move. So the solutions that have been proposed are probably short-term solutions, and I think the community should have some input on that, because we care about the aesthetics there, we care about erosion. I've been working for a long time with the Harbor District, trying to get the Harbor District to see the light of beach armoring there. And I think that's going to be part of the solution somehow. I'm not sure exactly how. But if there was more sand there, there'd be less erosion. And if we have to put some sort of barrier in that area, then it would be nice if the barrier wasn't so visible. It would be nice if it was covered by sand, so we wouldn't have to look at sheet pile or a concrete wall or whatever it is that would protect the road in the short term. So complicated issue. Many people in the community have been following it. Don's been very supportive going forward. We had a couple of hiccups when the Coastal Commission changed. Originally we were working with the Coastal Commission in San Francisco, and then that staff person left, and we were shifted to the Coastal Commission in Santa Cruz, and so we had been working for years with the Coastal Commission on Surfers Beach, and all of a sudden now we're starting from scratch. So the county has started, and they've been making great progress with Caltrans and with the Coastal Commission, and so it will move forward, and hopefully the community will be involved in that.
Thanks.
Maybe-
Do you,
I think
did you have something to say?
I might, but unless, I think Leonard said that there was, maybe you weren't as well, where the Army Corps of Engineers talked about, they're doing a study about the loss of sand in our Surfers Beach.
Right.
And as to people who don't know about it, what they say is that the amount of sand in the harbor is about 240,000 cubic yards. And I gather it's also clean. So they talked about at that meeting with the Harbor District and Army Corps of Engineers, they talked about being able to take about 140,000 cubic yards of sand and put it on Surfers Beach, and that would actually, Leonard may be able to speak to that too. It would improve the surfboarders, and it would restore the beach. The problem is that it only lasts for 6 years. So they're thinking about, how do we replenish that beach on a more permanent basis, because the sand keeps on getting trapped in the harbor because of the way in which the Army Corps of Engineers did the breakwater in the 1950s, so they're trying to figure out some kind of a solution. I think dumping 140,000 cubic yards on the beach is still a good idea, because even if it goes away in 6 years, it still replenishes beaches further south. The problem for us is that the Army Corps of Engineers, when we asked about the road and potential of loss of Highway 1, and their response is, well, that's not our problem. And they were pretty clear, that's not our problem. We only look at what we deal with, which was the change in the environment caused by their actions in 1950. So they're going to come up with, well, we did, by the way, we did get Caltrans and then get them to at least talk about the problems that we encounter and also, about the long-term potential solution. So we're kind of hopeful. But in any case, they're not going to come up with a proposed solution for a couple of years. And, we relayed that back there. Actually, Nicholas done a great job. He's constantly calling them and on them constantly. And we've had these meetings in which we will include your representative on. And we made it real clear to Caltrans that they're not coming up, the Army Corps of Engineers isn't coming up with a solution for at least 2 years. And we know how the erosion is occurring, and that will undercut the road, and there isn't much beach left. So we want them, so they now know what that timeline is. So, we're moving ahead, we're making some degree of progress both with the Coastal Commission and with Caltrans at the same time. And we're also including the city. It's actually city jurisdiction, but we've sort of taken a lead for that. But we do have some funds that we got from the Costco, I can never pronounce it, he gets it. But that one, in that case, we have about a couple $100,000 we're going to use on the plan. The other thing, one of my colleagues, the Congresswoman Jackie Spear and Rich Gordon and Dave Pine had a conference on sea level rise. It was really excellent. John Englander was he wrote a book about it. And you were there. I saw you. I was there too as well. But in any case, what he basically says is you got to plan for a 3-foot rise in the ocean. Now, it's really catastrophic on the baseline. No, but at least the one good thing about it was somebody who's given us, that's a definitive amount. So we know exactly what it's going to be. Well, not exactly, because he basically says, you can't really predict, but he says that's as good a measure as any. If it's too much, if it's too little, but it's about, so we're going to have to figure out, as not only a county, but also the state of California, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with the rising sea level. And the base side is, you can see all these major corporations are all dotted along there. Which is good, it's good news and bad news. The bad news is that they're all at risk. The good news is that they are billions of dollars of corporations, and the government will listen to them. They may not listen to us, but they will listen to them. So hopefully we will tap into some kind of a universal solution. You can't just deal with one little area. You got to deal with the whole. Because if you only deal with the one little area, you just go around it and surround you, and boom, your solution is gone. So in any case, there's a lot of things percolating about sea level rise. It was really a great conference, and I'm sure Lisa can tell you more about the science of it, but anytime there's any additional conferences, make sure that you know about it too.
Thank you. Did the council members have any questions about the issue or before I open public comment? Okay, Leonard.
Good comments from Supervisor Horsley. And in fact, I don't know if this is coincidental or not, but a couple days ago, there was a news report that said that sea level has risen by 8 inches in the last century, and I didn't even know that. And that the next sentence was, and they expect 3 feet over the next century. And the next part of that report was that in the state of California, San Mateo County gets 50% of the sea level rise impact from the whole state. We're at the greatest risk here due to the nature of the coasts. So whoever is appointed, I think that you need to keep in mind that it's a really complicated situation. We need a near-term solution, and I remain totally opposed to riprap. In my business at least, and probably in a lot of others, there's an old saying that there's nothing so permanent as that which is deemed temporary. Once it's there, the only thing that's going to get rid of it is nature. The government's never going to take it out once it's there, but nature will, because riprap always fails. Oh, I forgot to make a copy of the DVD for you. I'll try and do that and give it to you. You're going to be back here tomorrow night at 7:30. So, you know, we need a near-term solution, which I maintain the only viable one is dump a couple 100,000 cubic yards of sand there. And we need a longer-term solution, which is called dynamite the outer breakwater, because no other solution, there is no solution that leaves that breakwater as is that solves the problem. Ken LaJoy, that's the DVD I'm going to make for Supervisor Horsley. Ken LaJoy speaking, I think at a Midcoast Council meeting at El Granada School in about 1999 on San Mateo County coastal erosion. So whoever represents the community, the council and the community at this group, you know, keep in mind that we need a multi-pronged solution. It's going to have to involve the Army Corps. The report that they presented a month or two ago, it was they were only 2 years behind schedule on a one-year report. So don't expect them to do anything in any kind of useful time frame, but just, yeah, and I'll make more copies of the DVD if people ask me for them, but try and give me the request because it's easy to make them all at the same time.
Bill?
Thank you, council members. Just as a matter of process, the desired outcome is to have a single representative. And as Supervisor Horsley pointed out at the Army Corps of Engineers meeting, they said at least 2 years before they come back for a solution. And we all know that the higher you go in government, the longer that time expands. So I would urge you not only to have a representative, but also an alternate. And I would also ask that the alternate be one of the new members so that they can go along and learn with one of the senior members. But they'll also be here 2 years from now when you may or may not have signed up for another term. And so you'll have continuity and institutional memory going forward because it won't happen in 2 years, not the complete solution. So please consider using an alternative too if it's obviously all right with the county. But I think that would make sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll close the public comment. I just wanted to reiterate that this invitation from the supervisor was to send an observer to the agency work group meetings that are focused on the Casca-Busan money and on the specific project, hopefully near term, to protect that section of roadway, put the coastal trail, and perhaps temporary stair. This just for that, as I understand it. This rep that we're appointing tonight. And I just would say to wrap up my introduction to this anyway, that I think that given Neil's long history with this, that we consider appointing him.
I'll make a motion to put on the table. Basically, in support of what you're saying, Neil, I know that you've been involved for some time now, and I think that that's important, kind of hinging on what Bill is saying, some continuity. So I would like to make a motion to nominate Neil Mariles as the MCC community representative, we'll say /observer, at county-sponsored Surfers Beach Agency work group meetings.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have just one quick question. I'm going to hopefully end up not apologizing after a little while when I get caught up, but my apologies for not knowing about a lot of the issues that are up for discussion. But one question that I had is, has the council or the County Board of Supervisors ever reached out to or involved the Surfrider Foundation? Because I know that they've had a lot of involvement with. Okay, just because that's something, I know that that's, it seems to be a similar issue that the Surfrider Foundation has been involved in the past.
They actually have been to some of these conferences, so they're pretty much aware of.
They're quite involved in the Army Corps Harbor District ongoing project, which, as Supervisor Horsley mentioned, will not have anything for us before 2017. This near-term project now is just to protect that one little section of highway there that's in much danger. And so, yes, you're right, Surfrider's following along, and we often have their members here at our meetings.
Okay.
Anybody else? We ready to vote? The motion?
I nominate Neil Merrilees as MCC Community Representative Observer at county-sponsored Surfers Beach Agency Work Group meetings.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Can I ask, when are those held? Are they held like once a month, or?
I don't know. I haven't been to one. I just wanted to say that I'm a member of Surf Riders, and Ed Lorenas, the president, lives across the street. So I talk to him all the time about this, and he'll be informed. Surf Riders will be involved in whatever goes on here, for sure. The Surf Club is involved, and they're informed. And, yeah, everybody's focused on it.
That's how we got alerted to it, from Surfrider.
Oh.
So we know we'll be hearing from you if you have any news. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want an alternate?
Would you like us to? We can do an alternate.
Fine. Whatever your pleasure is.
Well, we can do that, can't we?
I'm not the chair anymore.
Let's do that.
Don't look at me.
I think I would suggest Chris Johnson as an alternate. That, you guys get to know each other, whatever, and that this seems like, he lives in El Granada, and I think you mentioned that don't you have a child at the school there that's adopted the beach?
Wilkinson, yes, they've adopted Surfers Beach as a place that they go and pick up trash, and that's because it's right across the street. So they've asked me, what's going on with Surfers Beach, and they heard that I'm involved with the MCC, so they kind of, at their morning assembly, asked me every once in a while if they could just get an update on Surfers Beach, because they're right across the street and they're pretty attached to it. And so, yeah.
All right, so I move we appoint Chris as our alternate.
I second.
Question. Well, because the power of the chair,
I can just appoint him?
Appoint him.
Well, we got this far. All in favor?
I have a
All in
question.
favor?
As an alternate, so that means they don't attend the meetings together?
No, I think we're invited to send one person.
You could send it, I don't care, you can send two, it's fine.
Well, you let us know. You let us know.
The only reason I suggest they have an alternate is in case Neil can't come.
Right.
Yeah.
Because this is sort of odd. We have to do it whenever we have to contact Cal France, and it's whenever they'll meet with us.
Yeah, I
It
understand.
might be short
Right.
notice. The other thing is that maybe Chris or maybe Neil can't come to the council to explain what's going on. So it's probably good to have, at least somebody's going to be.
We don't want to wear out our welcome, but these are the two people, and if they're invited, however you want to do it,
Yeah.
just one person come, that's fine.
Well,
And,
we'll notify both. If they both can come,
Okay.
that's fine. And if only one can come, that's fine too. We just want to make sure that somebody covers it so that we can report back to the
Right.
council.
Right, thank you.
I never got to just appoint people.
Yes,
Maybe Don wasn't here to tell you you could do it. Okay. So,
As long as you control the gavel.
I didn't get a gavel.
Speaking of
All right.
Paper gavel.
I actually get.
So, moving on to agenda item,
Lisa, so that was an appointment?
that was an appointment. Thank you,
You're the
Secretary.
secretary now.
Let's see, item 4C is a letter of support for county application for Measure A Bike and Pedestrian Program funding for planning and permitting of the southern segment of Midcoast Highway 1 Parallel Trail. The desired outcome is to approve the draft letter. Now, Nicholas pretty much went over the background on this earlier, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. We've got the letter. Does anybody need more explanation on what we're doing here? Nicholas?
I don't need any explanation, but I was wondering if I
Mic.
could make ask a question first, before we start the conversation. Minor change, second paragraph, line 1, application to fund the planning, environmental, and design. Would you be able to just say planning and permitting? It just simplifies everything. Apparently, I'd spoken with someone earlier, and the planning, environmental, and design got them a little bit confused. So
All right.
it's on everyone, planning and permitting.
So now it says,
If I could address that for a second. So I was looking at some documents on this. There's a word missing there, and that's why it doesn't make sense. The word that's missing is phases. So the planning, environmental, and design phases of this thing, I was reading it, didn't kind of make sense. Planning, environmental, what? But if we say the phases, but, if we want to change it to, what, planning and permitting?
Planning and permitting.
But that's why that doesn't make
You guys
sense.
are allowed to do whatever. I just was clarifying an issue that I discussed with someone earlier.
I did run it by you.
You did. You did. I didn't realize people were.
It was late,
All right, the first sentence in the second paragraph now reads, "The MCC fully supports the county's application to fund the planning and permitting of the Midcoast Highway 1 Parallel Trail, ...
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion? Do I have a motion?
You sure do.
Oh, Carl, did you? Sorry, I didn't have a speaker.
You gotta move fast here, Carl.
I'd like to suggest going back to the planning, environmental, and design phases. And where we go wrong time after time after time on the California Coastal Trail is in the design of the trail, the nature of the trail. We are doing inappropriate project after inappropriate project. On this coast side, I'm most concerned with the coastal trail, but this is another one where you can easily go off track on the whole thing from what was originally intended in this alternative transportation scheme. You want somebody in there, not just looking over the permitting. If it's the planning and permitting, it all becomes a fait accompli by the time you get to reflect on anything. You're permitting something that exists, and what we want to have is input on the nature of this thing. And you can't do that if you're already given, essentially a project for approval. So I'm not at all happy with that change, and it's where we've gone off track time after time after time, turning trails into roads around here. I was in on, probably a couple of decades ago, in on the original sort of bunch of people who wanted this alternative way of getting up and down the coast side, especially during weekend traffic and so forth. There were safety issues. One thing we'd want to have a local person paying attention to is that we'd have our appropriate spurs and access off of this trail for the schools, because one idea of this alternative thing was a safer way, and the bike to school kind of concept, so forth and so on. These are local concerns and very often overlooked if you're just given, a set of blueprints or a landscape design or whatever. And by that time, it's got so much momentum, so many thousands of dollars have been spent on doing it at the county level with the landscape designers and what have you, it takes hell and high water to change anything. So I'd like to suggest a little more consideration of perhaps going back to the original language. Thank you.
Leonard, I just wanted to remark that we're not appointing somebody here. This letter is simply to support the grant application. This isn't really a letter to the county. It's just saying, you know, we hope you'll give the county the money, and that this project, this planning project, will go through the complete public process.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
So the expression planning and permitting is one that we use at the county. It could be compared to jargon. So planning and permitting includes the outreach. It's so we don't have to say planning, community outreach, environmental review, design, and permitting. It's planning and permitting, and all that's included. And in a technical sense, when you talk with, you know, whether it's planning and building department, the transportation authority, the people who are doing the funding, when you say planning and permitting, they're aware that there's a full community engagement, there's the design, there's the appropriate environmental review, and environmental review includes levels of public participation. So it's a cleaner way of saying it, but it includes everything. Like I said, it's really just jargon, but it's a cleaner way of saying it. And as I said, there was an issue earlier today where someone was confused by all the steps, and so that's why planning and permitting works just as well. But sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
Other than the issue of the exact wording of the letter, I agree with all the rest of Carl's comments. I don't have an opinion really on the letter wording. And I certainly support the council sending a letter of support, and I hope the county gets the money and gets this done sooner rather than later. It was in the LCP in 1980, so here we are 33 years later. We're still waiting to implement what the LCP says to implement. But the design issues are really, really critical. I look at what Half Moon Bay has done, and it's nice that they've done it, but they've done it wrong. And I'll just pick on the one thing that irritates me every time I drive over there, like to go to the sewer authority. They've zigzagged the trail at each intersection. They zig it out close to the highway so that they've had to put the limit line for the stop sign way back, which means that the cars that stop at the stop sign can't see the oncoming traffic, so they have to stop back before the trail and then pull up, blocking the trail. This is lame beyond belief, and this is the kind of design thing that is really critical that we do it right, because they've done it wrong. And that's just one example. So I think that we really need to make sure that even though this is not quite the right agenda item here, we need to make sure that the county intends to very much involve the community in the nitty-gritty design details of this. And yes, send the letter, and let's get the money soon. Do you have any idea when construction might actually start if you get the money?
Everything glacially slow.
I mean, like 2014?
No, I wish I could say that, no.
They wouldn't have the website up.
Thank you, Leonard. Does anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public comment.
Would you like a motion?
I would like a motion.
I would like to move that we approve the draft letter with the changes as stated.
A second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, item 4D. Request for designation of the 35-foot south side mid-block segment of Prospect Street in Princeton has no parking, where the distance from the center line to the curb is only 15 feet wide, causing parked vehicles to block the travel lane of a busy through street. And the desired outcome is to approve the request to the Department of Public Works for a no parking red curb paint for the 35-foot section on the south side of Prospect in Princeton. I posted a picture kind of explaining this on the website last weekend, and there are some out there on the table. I'll hold this up so the camera can. I don't know if the picture's really necessary. Prospect Street gets you from Capistrano into Princeton, and it's the only way. It's the only street, unless you come in from the back on Airport Street. And so it's an important street, emergency vehicle access, all that. It's got the coastal trail there. It's a bike route, designated bike route, and there is no, it's, I don't know what you call it, the lowest level of bike route. It has no striping, and the reason for that is because it's a narrow street. There isn't room. So this one section where the curb juts out and makes the street narrower, this is the section we're asking for. Oh, no, if you could hold it up with the camera. Yeah. This is the section we're asking for, just for some red paint there. And it's the same treatment that is on Capistrano that you will see, where there's the curb goes in for the parking cutouts, and then it juts out, and they paint that curb red because it gets so crowded in there, people park anywhere they think they can get away with. So basically, that's all we're asking for, is to paint the curb red. Does everybody get what I'm saying here? Is there any questions?
I had a question.
Oh,
Sorry, Lynn. Just beyond that, in reference to the picture itself, so I guess it'd be the westernmost portion of that. It looks like it's the drainage, and then is there parking there in that dirt strip? Is that
Yeah,
an
it's
official
basically what they've done is the two entirely different treatments that change mid-block on that street. You have, what was on Capistrano and comes around onto Princeton with curbs and parking cutouts. And then right at the creek, it stops. And then on the other side of the creek, it switches to what's in Princeton, which is basically just valley gutters, and then you park off the pavement you can see where the grass is, So yeah, the parking,
So
there's
people would be
parking
pulling
there,
right onto
but they
that.
pull off the pavement to park there. So the only section is the 35 feet where the curb is sticking out in the street. It's the only section that needs to be no parking. And I've seen people, I came by there one morning, and probably like a Sunday morning, and someone had parked, must have been all full, and they'd parked there, big old truck, and then probably maybe had too much to drink, so got a ride home, left the car there. And so you come by on the street, nobody's parked anywhere except at this section where they're sticking right out in the street. I mean, you have to pull over to the other lane to get by. So actually, Len's familiar with this. We've sort of had a crusade to get this, forget, the chair, okay. Public comment, Len?
Well, before you go to the public.
Oh, what?
So, sorry, I was going to ask, I agree with you, I've seen this section, but have we had any feedback at all from the community on this, other than you and Len?
Feedback,
Anybody complaining about it, asking anybody who might be concerned about?
no, I have
Parking,
not
that's
heard that, no. It came up because we worked on the coastal trail route through there in 2009, and the community members were walking that area, and we noticed this, it was an issue. I don't remember, do you remember if it?
Well, let me speak to that.
All right.
As Lisa noted, when we did the first portion of the coastal trail, the southern portion of the Midcoast, and walked through there, the problem was very evident. It's a problem that's only evident if you happen to walk through when people are parked and people park there. The rest of the time, it's not evident at all. There have been multiple meetings we've had with DPW, we've pointed to the problem. We've had them tell us, I don't really think there's a problem there. We've sent them pictures informally and said there is a problem, on multiple occasions. So this is a good example of the other end of sort of the scale of issues you deal with, because you've just talked about erosion on the coast. You've talked about, a major section of the trail, parallel trail. But yet one like this has really sat there for 4 years. And anybody I pointed it out to at the time has seen it. And I said, in more than one meeting with DPW, we brought it up. However, we've never taken the particular action Lisa has here to just draw it explicitly to the attention of the county supervisors, who are excellent on feedback. And I really think it is something that deserves attention, small as it may be. And so this is a very excellent way to deal with something like that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Let's finish
I can
public
wait.
comment, yeah.
Yeah, I certainly agree that this is a problem. I have a little bit of a concern about the weekend produce business across the street, because the 35 feet, that's 2 parking spaces. And, people sometimes are just blind to red curbs anyway. And I think that maybe the request for the red curb as a stopgap is appropriate, but I think that a longer-term request needs to be move the walkway. It's hard to tell how far the sidewalk goes. I guess the sidewalk goes to as far as you've drawn in the red curb. But I think that the sidewalk needs to be moved in and the curb needs to be moved in so that those are two real parking spaces as a long-term request. And, you might want to confer with Pardini and see how much of a negative impact he thinks it's going to be. I suspect he's going to be fairly upset. But, I think it needs to be done because, yeah, it's a problem.
Pardini does have his own parking
Sure.
front.
By moved in,
It's not enough.
by moved in, do you mean like moved, widening the actual road itself? Or moved in as in pushing it back towards like Big Ed's, the
Well,
sidewalk?
basically, the sidewalk that's in the foreground would go straight to the, which direction is that? Is that west?
West-ish.
South.
West-ish.
So basically, the way the sidewalk zigzags around now, it would be a straight shot, and the off-road parking doesn't really need to be paved. It could just be hard-packed dirt, like I believe it is closer to Broadway.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Madam Chair? I think moving the sidewalk is a much bigger deal.
Yeah, I didn't
It
think
would be very expensive.
I think that-
Jackhammering concrete,
Right.
you're asphalting the road. It may well be that the lawn there belongs to the property owner, and I suspect that's why it jiggles around like that. And the other thing is, the other thing in terms of you can't just paint a curb red. It has to actually go through the county ordinance. It has to be a county ordinance. I'm not saying, first of all, I'm saying it can be done. The only reason, you can't, like the sheriff's department can't give a citation if somebody parks there unless that has been painted in there by county ordinance. If it's a county ordinance and a patrol car comes along and sees somebody parked in a red zone, they get a ticket. So we don't want them to be giving tickets without there being an ordinance. So that's how we have to do it. We'll have to go to DPW, find out if there's some major problem with the lack of parking in an area, and then try and add it as a county ordinance.
I think that's what we were told, was that, they couldn't paint it red because it wasn't in the system as a no parking
So that's
place.
That's what you have to.
And, but, so,
that's
but
the
it,
request you can make.
the concern I have is that when someone is parked there, in order to pass that car, you have to pull into the opposing traffic lane.
Yeah, that's fine. What I'm saying.
And you have big semi-trucks coming through that street. We've got, with my community, with 227 homes, if there's a fire there and these homes burn fast, that's where the fire truck comes through.
What I'm asking you to do, when you write the letter, ask this to be placed into the ordinance book, not just painted red.
I also have a comment.
All right.
You're asking that this be a no parking area,
So it becomes enforceable.
so it's enforceable.
Okay.
It's easy to paint it red, you can do that yourself.
You just did.
For us to do it, we have to do it by ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chris?
Oh, yeah.
Kick me, you're always telling me to kick you.
This is so dangerous. I happen to be trying to teach my daughter how to drive, okay? She didn't have a lot of hours under her belt, and we were coming down Capistrano. So what happens is, it was a Saturday with a lot of traffic. Cars go here to turn right. Then these jokers that are here think, oh, look, here's another lane. They come out here. So if you're coming to make a left-hand turn, she didn't expect to have this two lanes of traffic, right? And it was, I thought we were gonna be at least slamming into a van. So I just think from that perspective, it leaves open a rather dangerous situation if you're making a left turn. Now granted, she was inexperienced, but you see how fast, even when there's a lot of traffic, people go around there. It's an accident waiting to happen if it has hasn't already. So I'm in support of this, and I'm happy to make a motion when the time arises.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea for all the reasons stated, but another reason I wanted to add, and several of us were at the last MCC meeting, project engineer for Big Wave, Scott Holmes, said that the entire traffic plan for Big Wave hinges on this particular intersection right here. And if all that traffic is going to be coming out here and coming in here, then we need to do something about Prospect, or Big Wave needs to do something about Prospect, or the county needs to develop the ordinance, because if that's where Big Wave's traffic is going to be coming and going, then I think they should be an advocate for this particular thing that we're trying to do here, or we're trying to suggest. So that's what I want. I wanted to bring those two pieces together of, you know, whether you support or don't support Big Wave. The project engineer did say that this particular intersection is the main intersection, and if we're hearing anecdotal stories about it, and I'm there all the time too, that it's crowded, it's dangerous, then I think that those two issues need to be linked together on this discussion.
Anybody else? You want to make a motion?
I'm trying to think how to, I think Chris
Can I
has a good
suggest
point.
one?
What?
You want me to suggest one?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I have a motion that we send a request to County Public Works to designate as no parking with red curb paint for the 35-foot mid-block section on the south side of Prospect and Prince. So we can just say, I so move if you like that.
I so move.
Did
I
we
wanted
get
to add something to it.
Well, I added designated.
Or maybe we need to do this at a separate time. But I think what Chris is saying is that somehow that also, this idea has to be included in whatever documents or wherever Big Wave is in the project. And that may not need to be included in this, but I think that's an important point not to be lost, I guess.
Well, I think it would be reflected in the minutes, and I think that, that this request should be just strictly to designating that
I have another question.
as no parking.
Will it be an issue, as Leonard mentioned, I mean, for business in the area? I mean, maybe it's only 2 cars.
From what I've seen, I've never seen more than 1 car parked there, but that's all it takes to totally throw that off. And I would say that the danger, the inconvenience that causes, it's like, you know, walk another block and park. I just don't, I don't think, it shouldn't be a parking space. Well, you know, I just don't. For 1 car to be able to block that traffic lane on this important bottleneck street. And that's my opinion. Dave?
Couple comments. I do think that before we send this off to the county, we should talk to Lamborghinis across the street. Make sure they're not going to be upset, and if they are, see what they think about it. The other possibility is to encourage Public Works to paint a bike lane there, which would keep people from parking there.
Well-
And that's just not.
I'm sorry, people don't, even though you're right, but people don't, people will drive in bike lanes. For some reason, California
Yeah,
motorists, they really, that's one, I mean, they get a citation for that, but I see people driving bike lanes all the time.
I understand that.
They
and
won't,
so-
they're not, there's a certain width to the street before they will stripe a bike lane, and this doesn't meet the criteria.
So the other part I was going to say is, if we are going to be doing this for safety reasons, we probably should request that DPW also considers restriping that street to avoid the problem that Laura was talking about, and make clear where the traffic lanes are.
Oh, good idea.
Perhaps a fog line or something. If it's visual, can't be enforced. The other part was, I think we've omitted the point that Don raised, that we need to request either be incorporated into one of the existing ordinances, or that a new ordinance be passed to enable this.
We added the word in, the word, the motion read, I move we send a request to County Public Works to designate as no parking with red curb and paint the curb, the 35-foot mid-block section on this. So we're asking them to designate that section of curb no parking.
And plan it into the existing ordinance code.
Well,
Or-
however they do it, we don't need to figure that out.
Is designate good enough for the county process, Tom?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Can I just have one quick question, just because I feel like the one aspect that wasn't discussed was the parked car. Like, what happens if I'm a visitor to the area and I park there because it's a legitimate parking spot, and then I come back and my car's totaled, right? Like, does that, do you know what I'm saying? Like, could I, as the car, the owner of the car that was parked there, could I then, you know, kind of talk to a lawyer and say, well, how did I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, the county clearly is allowing parking in a place where there's not enough room for cars and traffic. Does that make sense?
You're saying if it's not striped?
If it's a liability.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, could it theoretically be a liability continue to allow parking there?
I don't know, I guess that's never happened yet.
Well, it's easy to sue us.
Yeah, I know.
But, we almost always do that, but we get sued all the time, for, you know, I'm not a lawyer, and, I was, the person that has the liability is the person that hit the car, if it's a legal parking space. But, you know, that's not to say that the person, I mean, I don't know what they would sue us for.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I am really not clear what Pardini's would be upset about. I mean,
I think, I see the guy all the time, I shop there. Basically, he's fine, he's got his own parking in front of his business, and if he's concerned about anything, it's that the farmer's market at Oceano is taking away his customers.
Okay, so there, you don't see a I mean, I don't
No,
get the
don't see it.
concern.
I mean, I would go and ask him if he's not open that much this time of year, but I don't see it as a problem.
However, as Bill mentioned, and I think as Dave was saying, maybe as an element of, you know, we're all part of this community, consideration that maybe if we're thinking about sending a letter saying that we want to do this, just, you know, walking over to Pardini and saying, we're thinking about sending a letter to do this, and here's why, for greater safety and for the betterhood of the neighborhood. You want to get on board with that? You know, as opposed to just like he hears about it later, there's a road crew out there, he's like, what the?
You know, he may be watching. Actually, no, it's not live, but actually went there one time, said, oh, I saw you on TV, I couldn't believe it. He was actually watching an MCC meeting. So.
Then clearly we better, well.
TiVo these days.
Okay, I still don't get how that would affect him. Could someone explain it?
No, I don't think it would, but where does this leave us? Are we ready to ask to make this, to approve a request tonight, to have this designated no parking, or do we want to continue this to another meeting and I come with more references?
So, I was going to say, I would be willing to make a second to this motion and vote for it, but I do think we should then talk to Pardini and make sure that he doesn't have an issue.
Before we send it in?
I think you can go ahead and send
Or
it in, because we can always
Mesa
retract
Luna
it
as
if we
well.
need
I
to.
mean, since they are kind of.
Well,
I was thinking
that's
about
it.
that as well,
See,
yeah.
it's not so much Pardini, it's all the area around
Yeah.
there, that, or in the bar and every other place, where when it's crowded, that's when they park there. Well, what are they gonna say? We're talking about one parking place.
Right. I'm not as concerned about the ones that have a larger parking area and a larger clientele. The produce stand have people come and go a lot more quickly. So I think that's why I would talk to them explicitly.
Okay, but still, I don't get it. Okay, so
So they're directly
if
across
they
the
can't,
street.
because of one spot
Yeah.
that someone couldn't park in, they would be upset, you think?
I have been in other communities where businessmen have been very upset that parking that they thought was important to them got painted red.
Well, that must be south,
Not on the coast.
And Laura,
where they're all entitled.
Laura, I mean, if I could just address, you know, you're asking, you know, what's the issue? I don't think Pardini's gonna care about losing those 2 parking spots. I don't think Mezzaluna's gonna care about it.
But that's not the issue.
Yeah, what I am concerned
Oh,
about
it's 2.
is why didn't anybody tell us what's going on here? Who decided this? What's going
Oh, I
on?
see what
He
you're
may be
saying.
watching or he may not, but as just good community outreach to, maybe one of our members just happened to go in and say, hey, this came up, it was on the agenda on the MCC meeting, we had this discussion, we're thinking about doing this. Any thoughts, business owner?
Oh, I gotcha, okay.
And just to, as community outreach, just as goodwill, rather than
Well-
just do something and then, like I said, the road
Surprise.
crew's out there striping and they're going, what, huh, what?
All right, I would like to change the motion. I would like to continue this. And, hey, this situation has existed for a long time. And somebody will volunteer to go and talk to all those restaurants.
Oh, I'll talk to him.
Great,
There you go.
there you go. And we'll pick this up at another meeting. How about that? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, then you get to keep the picture.
I will keep the picture.
Thank you. Okay, so number 5, council activity, correspondence received and meetings attended. Anybody?
Yes, yes, I attended the Views and Brews and Views, is that what it was? Yes, Brews and Views last Thursday at Half Moon Bay Brewery, in which Kendall Flint and Supervisor Horsley spoke. Aaron was also there. There wasn't, I guess because we've been to the other ones, there wasn't really any new information, but I think the important takeaway that Kendall especially wanted to make clear to people was that, we're in the kind of the visioning process here. This is the time for community input. She specified several different ways that their attempting outreach and input is possible. And she continued to reiterate, when people said, well, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do with that? Her response in general every time was, well, it's not what we're going to do. It's what you want. So I think the takeaway there is if you've got some specific thoughts about Princeton, get to the Plan Princeton website, contact Kendall, send a letter to Nicholas or to Supervisor Horsley. Now is the time to get your input if you have some thoughts on what Princeton is. And I think that was the major point of that very enjoyable meeting because Supervisor Horsley joined me and others in having a beer while we were listening to the meeting. So it was a great meeting in that. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Supervisor Horsley.
Theoretically, hypothetically.
No, he did
Strike
not.
that from the record.
Okay, well, I attended the December 9th conference on meeting a challenge of sea level rise in San Mateo County. This was hosted by Jackie Spear, Rich Gordon, and Dave Pine. And as Supervisor mentioned, large attendance, good information. There'll be another convening perhaps in the spring, task force being formed. This meeting was posted on the MCC website and Facebook page, and follow-up meetings and related issues will be posted on the MCC website. That's it. Anybody else? Future agendas.
I'll speak if I may.
Please.
Regarding the council retreat, Supervisor Horsley, I just got this information this morning. Oh, are you leaving us?
I was going to leave, go ahead.
Oh, you better leave for what I have to say. No, I'm just mentioning the dates. That Nicholas said that you were available January 25th and February 1st, Saturday.
Okay, yeah, fine, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to determine.
If you said it,
Let's put the word potentially in front of that. For your retreat.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, sure.
okay, great.
You bring the muffins?
Oh, we'll come up
Whatever
with
you
some.
want.
You
Yeah.
just put in your order.
Okay.
Is that beer and muffins? Is that-
Laura, how long does that last?
We'll pretty much as a group determine, it'll depend on what you guys want to have happen there.
So at least for me, it's all morning,
Yes,
and then you guys may do something after.
sure.
I was imagining that since it's a Saturday, you'd probably like to come over, in the morning so that you don't get caught in any potential beach traffic.
Yeah, so
So,
9
I remember
o'clock.
last year you wanted to start at
Yeah. I
9
don't
or
want to
something.
go like 10, 11.
So that's to be here.
Like 9 o'clock.
Not-
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be here.
Okay.
It could be English as well.
I think think it should be at a, well, that's a whole nother discussion, but,
All right, so we'll pick one of those.
yeah, but we need something a little more relaxed, I
I'm
think.
happy to look into a
Oh.
venue if you'd like.
Wonderful.
It's part of what I do for a living, so
Oh, great.
I'll take on that assignment. Something I know something about.
Okay, that's great. Good night, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you need? My pen back?
Yeah, whatever.
Thank you.
The
Okay,
cheaper the better, venue? Is that
Keep
the
in
plan?
mind,
that's always the
it is a
plan.
public meeting, so, I mean, not many people come, but it has to come.
So no one's home.
Yeah, right, no one's home. So, do we have to decide between January 25th and February 1st?
I cannot make the 25th, but
And-
that's just me.
February 1st, did you say?
Yeah, February 1st, or
That's a Saturday?
they're both Saturdays.
Okay. Because the second, I think, is the Super Bowl. so
Can
that would be-
everybody do February 1st?
Yes.
Sure.
Everyone can.
Yeah.
February 1st
It's
it
much
is.
too
We
easy.
were very specific in your email, so.
Okay, and it will start at 9-ish.
Ish?
Maybe
Say
9.
9-ish.
Yeah.
To about what if?
9.
But what is?
Oh, well,
What?
that depends on what we want to do.
Okay. In
We
the
do,
past,
we're going to have the supervisor, we probably need to have about an hour with him, and then county council will come and talk about the Brown Act. I'm figuring at least a half an hour for that.
Yeah, and then people have questions, so.
Yeah, maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So then, the rest of the time is whatever we want to cover, whatever.
So between now and then, we can make mistakes, once we learn about the Brown Act.
Yeah, there you go.
If you make a mistake, I'm going to,
Let me know
I'm
about
going
it.
to let you know.
All right.
and about how many bodies you need to accommodate in a space.
How many, nobody shows up.
Is
I
it
mean, really, it
inappropriate?
is public.
Volunteer space?
We're going to,
5 or 10 at the most.
Okay.
yeah, we got 7 on the council, we got the supervisor, we got county council, and whoever comes, which is, yeah, I mean, this room is perfectly.
Okay, well, here's the thing, hold on just a minute. I've been doing, I like to research stuff about retreats. And one of the things that they talk about is there should be, this is very stilted. You're behind a desk, you're at a chair, which doesn't necessarily lend itself, it does for parts of this, but you want to have more of I don't know how to explain the atmosphere, maybe couches or chairs or something that. That's exactly what I wanted, it's informal, thank you.
You're supposed to be retreating, technically. from the
Yes,
norm.
exactly. We're not spending the weekend at it, but nonetheless, we're retreating from desks. So I don't know if that's enough explanation.
As a matter of distant history, there have been times when Supervisor Gordon actually had one of the retreat settings that she wanted to.
Where,
You have to ask older members of the council to find out.
right.
Are we looking to
It's
do
a larger
this,
investment of time, but it's more like what you're talking about.
are we looking to do this gratis, or is there any kind of a budget?
I was
Minimum.
here
Yeah,
through
we could-
2000, and we never had, of course, it had to be after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Budget,
Yeah.
when we do have some money, but when this is free, this room is free, and when we have spent money on a special venue, it has been when we expected a large crowd,
Okay.
and then we forked up the money to accommodate that. So
Okay.
I don't know how much we could justify just to give us a couch. So, I mean, I don't know.
Excuse me? Clearly, this isn't important to you. I think it makes a difference in
We haven't-
communication.
We haven't set a number yet. I'm just saying, you're not gonna spend $300 for another venue for this, is all.
Well, if Erin comes up with proposals, then she can say,
Yeah, make a proposal.
here's your menu.
We have, if we're gonna do this on February 1st, we can just, and you have some proposals, we can talk about it at our next meeting, under future agendas, and nail those things down. Main thing, we've got the date set aside, and the supervisor can come. And so Laura had sent out an email with some ideas for agenda items that have happened in the past, and basically, if you have thoughts on what you'd like to have on the agenda, if you would send them to me, and,
Erin did, I think I forwarded it to you.
yes. And basically, Brown Act, you don't want to do group emails, we don't do that. So if you just send your suggestions to me, and I'll compile it, and we can talk about this again. So we have,
One last quick question. How do we let the community know that they're welcome to attend this?
well, it's announced like any other meeting. There's a notice posted at all the required places and on the website.
Okay,
That's a requirement of the Brown Act.
okay.
We can discuss agendas, can we not? Without worrying about the Brown Act?
What, you mean on a group email? But we don't really need to. We have time to plan this.
No, I know, but you made that comment, and I don't know, I'm just curious whether I have it wrong or right in my head.
I just soon err on the side of,
You can actually discuss agenda items as a group, but you can't discuss
The item itself, yeah.
I think we should have an item.
Oh, not the
on
details, okay.
Stripes and sidewalks, then you can't go into how you feel about it.
okay. We have 2 regular meetings before the 1st of February. So there's plenty of time to plan this and
I was going to say, if we're going to be in a place we have to pay for, booking it might not be something you want to wait until the last moment on. So,
well, there's that.
So I would say if it's a place that we're going to be paying for, that probably should be at the next meeting.
Yeah, for sure, good point.
So actually, the next meeting is well into January, right?
It's the 8th of
8th.
January.
8th of January. So I was going to say maybe we should just put an upper limit on it, and if it's within that limit, authorize Aaron to go ahead and
Well,
reserve the place.
Aaron, what, are you thinking of a place in the Midcoast?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and what
Feels right.
What amount did you think you might encounter?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not exactly sure what I mean, are we asking them to, like, serve us food, or are we bringing in our own? How many people is it to accommodate? How big is the space? I mean, Joel probably, running a hotel, I mean, you probably know, as well, like, if you're, and the other part of it too is maybe it's gratis to the community, because it's, it's also a nod to, supporting the council. So I'd have to kind of ask around and find out.
Right.
Did you want to say something along those lines? Okay.
When we met here, Bill?
Just if I could make a comment, I know this is an internal discussion, but, in the past, when we had these organizational meetings, they're actually fairly poorly attended by community members, mainly due to the time and the Saturday, whatever. As Bob said, just the usual suspects used to show up. And so, one of the things the council's always been really careful on, and I think I'm picking up some worry in Lisa's voice, is that when the council does spend money, they really want to spend it when the community is going to be pulled into it.
Mm-hmm.
And these internal organizational type meetings tend to be fairly insular. And so it's always been a kind of an iffy thing, because the council never had much of a budget to begin with, as to minimize any money spent on themselves when the outside community isn't going to be here. So that's something to sort of keep in mind. But we've had them in this room before. It's, if you move the tables aside and then you just had chairs, I think at one point, it flows fairly freely. There's, like I said, a few people will show up, just maybe a little bit more this time because there's new council members, but there won't be more than a dozen people.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just as a matter of history.
There is a kitchen here, coffee pot, all that stuff.
Okay, I don't agree, and the reason I don't agree is that this is not just another business meeting, and this is conducive to having a regular meeting, and that is how you communicate, and I want something more from this than just same old in what we do at a regular meeting. And I don't think that this venue supports that. And as far as spending money, Bill and I have discussed that before, because I've been accustomed to lunch being provided at these. I have no issue spending money for us to get work done. We're volunteers. We don't get paid. So for us to spend money and our Saturday to make sure we have a productive year, I have no issue spending money.
Well, if I can interject just one more thing. So, I mean, we know what the one option is, which is to have it here and not spend any money. So let me look into, I can't, I got nothing now. So let me look into it and I'll come back and we can make a decision.
How much was spent on the venue at Cypress
We get
when you were expecting a large?
We get a government rate there. They charge the county and us half their normal rate, and it's $150.
So there's a good basis for it.
Mhm.
0 to-ish. Right around 100.
That was a nice space, by the way.
Pardon?
If I'm thinking of
It's
it
a
right.
really nice space.
Cypress
The nice
Meadows.
space, right, yeah, next to
Yeah.
the big barn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good, thanks.
All right, does anybody have any agenda items for January 8th or anything? Anything you want to just tentatively put on this?
This item, obviously, the parking.
Okay, and I have one, I'm going to call it color of tactile paving at pedestrian curb ramps. It's an issue Dan brought up.
Dan's issue.
The
Yeah.
Dan's
Kids.
issue. I happened to add, when I went to the sea level conference at County at the college, lo and behold, they had dark gray pads, and they looked way better than the horrible, and yellow, so I took a picture, so Dan and I will bring that to you. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.